I'm Marie and welcome back to my wildlife garden in October. This month in the wildlife garden we're focusing on providing food and shelter for wildlife to help them survive as temperatures drop. Before we get into looking around the garden, please do subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, it really helps us out, and if you have any questions about the garden please put them in the comments. So here's some of the wildlife that you might be seeing in your garden this month. Garden birds such as jays, coal tits, starlings, house sparrows and goldfinches will be active, feeding on seeds, berries and fallen fruit. Migratory birds like redwings and fieldfares arrive, seeking milder winters and can be heard on crisp autumn nights. Hedgehogs are busy fattening up on worms and beetles before hibernation. Foxes and other small mammals like wood mice, bank voles and shrews will be foraging for food this month. And bats might still be active in their late season feeding frenzies. Most reptiles will already have entered hibernation, while frogs, toads and newts will be well on their way. Look for resilient butterflies such as red admiral on milder days, and ladybirds will begin to gather in large numbers to hibernate, often huddling together under logs or in sheltered spots. Bees and other insects will still be attracted to late flowering plants, including ivy flowers, which are a crucial food source at this time of year. Woodlice, which are a type of crustacean, remain active throughout the month, feeding on decaying plant matter under logs and leaf litter. So let's get into how we can help wildlife this month. Hedgehogs are fattening up ahead of going into hibernation. They need to be large enough to survive several months without food, so leaving meat-based cat or dog food, kitten biscuits or specialist hedgehog food out for them with some water can make all the difference. Keep putting food out until it's no longer taken. We made our own super simple hedgehog feeding station this month and I'll link that video above. If you see a hedgehog out during the day, call your local hedgehog rescue. It could be very ill or not weigh enough to survive hibernation. Birds will be really appreciative of supplementary food now. After a quiet August and September, we've seen birds coming back to our feeders this month. Now's a good time to give feeders a good clean and refill them with calorie-rich food such as suet, peanuts and sunflower hearts. As the days shorten, birds have less time to find food and need a lot of energy to keep warm on cold nights. Leaving seed heads on plants and ivy flowers to develop into calorie-rich berries will help birds significantly over the next few weeks. Keep the feeders topped up as the birds will come to rely on them. Leave windfall apples and other fallen fruit on the ground for birds and for insects to feed on when sources of nectar have dried up. Leave as much of your garden undisturbed as you can for the autumn and winter months. Tidying up can be done in the spring. Many species will be needing these areas for hibernation or overwintering. Create habitat piles by building piles of logs, twigs and garden debris to provide dry, undisturbed shelter for hibernating insects, amphibians and small mammals. Damper areas at the bottom will attract hibernating amphibians, while drier areas will support insects and small mammals. You can also rake leaves into piles in an out-of-the-way corner to provide shelter for hedgehogs and other creatures. You can also set up a hedgehog house in a quiet part of the garden with food nearby. We set up our hedgehog house in recent weeks and I'll link the video about that above. Compost heaps can also provide a habitat at this time of year. Now's the perfect time to increase your stock of wildlife-friendly trees and shrubs by planting bare root plants. Choose berry-bearing holly, Guelder rose, rowan trees and hawthorn, or invertebrate favourites such as birch and hazel. You'll provide a lasting source of habitat and food for a range of species. Now's also a good time to plant spring flowering bulbs. Bumblebees hibernate for up to 7 months and are only a few hours away from starvation when they emerge from hibernation. Planting nectar-rich spring bulbs now will ensure that there's plenty of food for bees when they wake up. Choose crocus, snake's head fritillary and grape hyacinth for a bee-friendly feast. Now is also a good time to plant winter flowering plants, which can bridge the nectar gap between autumn and spring. When it comes to habitat maintenance and preparation, now is a great time to clear nest boxes, preparing them for the next nesting season. Also, make sure to check any bonfires before lighting them to make sure there's no hibernating animals like hedgehogs. It's also a good idea to take down your bee hotel. Leaving up bee hotels during the winter can expose them to damp conditions, which can put the overwintering bees at risk of succumbing to fungal infections. Take it down and pop it in your shed instead, where it can remain dry. Don't bring it into the house as conditions will be too warm and the bees might emerge early from their cocoons. Don't forget to pop the bee hotel back up in March. Now is a good time to trim hedges. It's illegal to disturb nesting birds in spring. But while they won't start nesting until April or May, some species establish breeding territories as early as January, so trimming hedges now will therefore ensure minimal disturbance. Stay tuned for our November Wildlife Garden tour next month, and please do subscribe if you'd like to see how our wildlife garden is getting on. See you next time!